Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And this is Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
And today we've got a super special guest.
A very special person to me.
How special is he?
He's very special.
He's very special. We're talking with Mr. Jason Baylin tonight.
One and only.
What's going on, dude?
Hey, how are you guys?
We are doing
pretty good,
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, shit.
So, what are you up to today? How's your day going?
My day has been spectacular.
That's good.
Yeah?
That's
Is that there's no sarcasm in that, right? You
There's
never
no
know in the
sarcasm,
reptile
no.
world, man. You never know.
It's been a wonderful day.
Hell
That's
yeah.
cool, man.
So, for those of the people who don't know, you are a carpet guy.
I
Right.
am.
Yeah, and you work with a lot of different kinds of carpets, but you're
I do.
probably best known for the tigers, right?
Yes.
Most certainly.
Hell yeah. So how did that project kind of even come about to you?
It was an unexpected project for me. I was thumbing through one of the old Reptiles magazines and saw an ad in the back of the magazine that had this beautifully striped carpet python in it, and I just emailed the guy and was able to get his last two babies he ever made available to anyone.
Damn.
And
Wow.
So I got them, grew them up, and just started refining that particular morph. And over the years, we've gotten it to be pretty well striped.
Yeah, I've seen some that just like I already geek out about stripes. So so you see like phenomenally striped tiger carpet and you're like, damn. And if you don't say damn to that, well, get the fuck out of the building.
Yeah, seriously. Who invited this guy anyway?
Oh man. So yeah, so the Baylin Tiger. I mean I have been a carpet fan for many years, and I remember I think the first time I had seen one, I don't remember where it was, but I remember my reaction, and I was like, if that's not the coolest Morelia I had ever seen, I was like, I can't come anywhere close to that on the cool
How many
level.
guys do you each have? How many do you each have of my tigers?
I don't have any.
I had two for a while, and I sold them as I was kind of downsizing on my coastal stuff, which I hate to even say because I loved them. But they did go to a buddy of mine that was fairly local, so I could go stare at them whenever I wanted.
Very good.
This is going to be sacrilege, but I've never been the biggest carpet person. Like, I like the West Poplin carpets a lot, but I never was like big into carpets. Like,
Damn.
I've got West Poplins, and then I've got one Jungle Jag, and that's pretty much it for carpets.
And you had a nice clutch this year too.
I did, yeah. The West Poplins, that clutch came out really great. There was one egg that went bad in incubation, but other than that clutch came out really nice. And I did an experiment with that clutch, actually, where I took half of the eggs, and for the last 2 weeks, roughly, of incubation, I bumped their incubation temperature up by like 3 or 4 degrees compared to what the rest of them were incubated at, to see if it would make any difference on coloration, because for the last like week or so of incubation, most of what's being done is the color to the animals. So, because it's pretty well documented in geckos that if you do that sort of thing in the last week of incubation, you can drastically improve the coloration of the geckos when they hatch out. You can literally take one clutch of geckos and keep one egg incubated at a low temperature, and then another egg incubated right side by side, and then for the last week or 10 days or so, bump up those temperatures, and it will drastically improve the coloration of that one compared to the other animal in the clutch of the same pairing. So I was just curious to see if it would work with snakes, so I tried that with the carpet pythons, and I don't know, off the bat, honestly, it didn't look like it made that much of a difference, but I'm curious to see when they have their first shed if I'll notice any differences with them.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if you would too. I'm guessing you probably won't see too much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is my guess, but it is an interesting experiment to try. So
Yeah, I've asked a few people, and I haven't heard of anyone trying it with snakes, and so I was like, I'll try it with. So I tried it with a clutch of Borneo short-tail pythons. I tried it with the clutch of West Papuan carpet pythons, and I tried it with a clutch of red blood pythons this year too. So I did 3 different species, tried it all with each of them. The Borneos, I think I see a decent change in color saturation. You know, who's to say until they get a little bit more size on them, but initially it looks like there's a little bit of a difference. The West Papuans, didn't really look like that much of a difference, and the blood pythons, I can't really tell. I don't know.
See, what you got to do.
What also would
go ahead.
What also would be interesting with that experiment is, did the eggs hatch on the same day?
You know what's fucked
did it
up?
prolong, or did it cause them to come out early?
It caused my West Papuans, all the ones that I incubated at the cooler temperature, they actually hatched out sooner than the ones that I incubated hotter. That I was not expecting.
That's the opposite of what I think we're
right.
Yeah,
100%. Right. I saw because the ones that were in the cooler incubator, they actually pipped on their own, and the other ones I was getting nervous. So after the other ones had pipped, I cut a couple on the warmer clutch because I was like, oh man, they must have died in the egg or something like that. But no, they're fine. They're in there. They just didn't want to come out yet. And I was expecting the complete opposite. I was expecting the ones to go warmer to come out sooner. And for whatever reason, the ones that were in the cooler incubator, had pipped on their own and hatched first. So I don't know. It just confused me more. I don't know what's going on. I thought I was like, I'll try this and see what happens, and now I've got more questions than if I had not done it. But I do want to try it again.
I think over the years, what I've done, I've actually lowered the temperature.
Towards
I think
the end.
probably 1.5 degrees or so when in my incubator for all my python eggs.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of keep them in the egg a day or two longer, so they absorb more of the yolk.
Yeah,
and that's what I've noticed. That the lower the temp, the longer they stay in the egg.
Yeah,
100%. And one of the things that is pretty well documented in blood pythons and short-tails is that if you incubate them at a hotter temperature, they'll hatch out sooner. But 1, they usually don't absorb as much yolk, and 2, the babies come out and they're psychotic. They're mental. Like they, for whatever reason, when they come out, they just want to kill you. And if you incubate them at a cooler temperature, they might go a couple days longer, but they usually come out a little bit more placid, a little more settled than if you incubate them at a hotter temperature.
So what we're saying is, if I want to create a blood python evil army,
yes, incubate them at 90 degrees.
The meanest blood pythons you'll ever have.
Yeah.
I might get stuck with that whole clutch.
You will get stuck with that whole clutch.
Oh, man.
So when you were younger, were you super into reptiles too, or is that like a acquired taste for you?
No, I was... when I was a kid, I was always the kid bringing stuff home, finding stuff under rocks, bringing it home. Whatever my mother would let me keep, and my dad, they were really good about it. So, I was able to bring a ton of stuff home and work with it at a very young age.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And a lot of trial and error there too, but at the same time, you still got to experience it.
100%. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people nowadays just like don't ever experience, is like getting out there, finding wild animals, bringing them home, trying to understand how to keep them properly. Everything they've got is, I bought a ball python, I have the ball python book on how to take care of my ball python, and they don't have to think about it, they just do it.
I agree 100%.
A lot of people like us, I wasn't allowed to keep snakes per se when I was growing up because my dad's terrified of snakes until I was like in high school. But I would still catch snakes. I'd bring them home. I'd set them up in a container outside, and I would try and get them to eat. That was my goal. If I could get them to eat a little bit of something while they were there, I was like, I figured you out. Because I could get garter snakes to eat. I could get decayed snakes to eat. I could get ringneck snakes to eat. And it was always just like so interesting for me to kind of figure out what sort of thing each one of those snakes preferred to eat. And it was like there was no book about it. I couldn't go online and ask someone, hey, I've found this ringneck snake. How should I set it up? It was just like, okay, I found this thing in a rock pile in a sliding rock area. I guess that's what kind of habitat it likes. What type of things do I think might find for food there? I'll try slugs, I'll try worms, I'll try beetles, I'll try crickets, and just trying to figure that sort of stuff out. I think that is a big thing that is like separating the older generation from the younger generation, because a lot of the people who are getting into reptiles now, they have a website for the specific species they're interested in. They've got someone who's already breeding them. They've got a book or 2 books or 3 books about how to take care of them and how to breed them properly. And for people like us, there's nothing there. It was like a Audubon field guide, and you'd be like, this is where you find this sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's an important way to grow up. I mean, just to go out there, get dirty, crawl into stuff, find stuff, bring it home, work with it, let it go. I mean, it was a really neat way to experience that part of the hobby before you really got into the other end of the hobby.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
100%.
Was there anything that you, was your favorite to find when you were going out?
For me, it was like you. I wasn't allowed to keep snakes at first, so it was box turtles. It was whatever frogs we could catch, salamanders, whatever Maryland had to offer that wasn't a snake. My brother and I would bring it home and try to keep it, and then eventually we would put it back where we found it. And but no, it was a great way to really spark that interest, in a young mind.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
As you kind of developed and started keeping, who were some of the people in the industry that you were kind of watching and paying attention to?
Oh my God. When I first started doing it, the industry wasn't really even an industry at that point. So I mean, the online thing kind of almost built the industry. Mm-hmm. In the magazines and stuff too, and when the show started. But when I was doing it, there was really nobody to look up to, or to like sort of mentor you, because you were sort of on your own. As I got into it, though, the Barkers,
for sure,
were a big influence, for breeding and that sort of thing. Who else? I mean, my first real reptile shows were like up in like the Pottstown area of Pennsylvania, mm-hmm. A couple in Ohio, and it was all very sort of new at that point.
Yeah. Right.
I remember the first local expo that I went to was the Massachusetts Reptile Expo, and it was in a room that was like maybe 30 feet by 40 feet, and there was like 6 tables there, and I saw about it in the back of Reptiles magazine, and I was like, oh wow, a reptile expo near me, I gotta go check that out. And I like went and I was like, oh, there's 6 people here. It's just 6 people hanging out. One guy had some ball pythons, one guy had some leopard geckos, and I was like, wow, these guys are like breeding things and doing this and blah blah blah. And it was not an expo today. People go to a reptile expo today, and it's like, oh, there's 80 species represented here, and people are breeding a whole bunch of different things. And I don't know. The first expo I went to, there was like, I think it was ball pythons and leopard geckos. That was pretty much it. There wasn't
they
anything.
were on the table with maybe deli cups, maybe plastic shoe boxes or whatever containers they could find to put them in. No displays, no acrylic, no nothing. It was just, whatever they had around the house, they throw it on the table, and there you go.
I think it was Tupperware. They had like legit Tupperware.
Good old Ziploc containers.
Yeah. Like, people online today are like, when they think that they're talking crap about reptile keepers, they're like, oh, you keep them in Tupperware. And it's like, well, at that expo, they had actually brought them in Tupperware. But it's crazy to see how much the expos have changed since then, and what species have gone to the wayside and ones that people are focusing on now. It's like there used to be all different kinds of colubrids, and then now it's like you don't see that as much. It's so weird to see the cycles that the hobby goes in.
But I think right now, honestly, it's starting to circle back a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
The Colubrids are becoming a lot more popular. Not to say that ball pythons are ever going anywhere. They're always going to be there.
Right.
But people are really into a lot of the Colubrids that were really popular back in the day. I off the top of my head right now, the black Mexican black king snakes, the greeters.
Yep.
Those things went from $35 a pop up to $200, $300 a baby now.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that just happened.
Yeah. Very quickly, very quickly.
And it's interesting to see that in and of itself, but it's also good to see that some of the more obscure, animals are starting to come back into the forefront, because you want to see a variety. You don't want to walk through an entire room of ball pythons. As much as people like them, and I do like them, I have a couple, but you don't want to see an entire expo full of ball pythons. You want to see the variety and the different things that people are working with, even on the obscure end.
100%.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember when we were at Tinley last year, and Jason Hood with the Postlenotus or whatever, and I was like, oh, those are cool.
He's just got a table full of like tegus, black-headed pythons, and Postlenotus, and I was like, that's fucking awesome. That's so cool.
Exactly.
Now you want to see the weird stuff. That's the stuff, that causes you to stop when you're walking around.
100%, yeah.
I remember the first time I saw a Woma python at an expo, and it was like at the Manchester Reptile Expo in New Hampshire, and it was like $5,000, and they had a pair of them, and I was like, I just stopped in front of the table, and I was like, how did you get that? That's from Australia. You can't get those. And I spent probably a half hour just staring at them, being like, I don't understand how that got here. I don't even know what's going on right now. How did you get an Australian Woma python here? It's just like, it just really took me back.
The obscure stuff definitely makes you stop and catch your eye. And I think over the last few years, the White Plains show in New York, whenever I would see anybody with the obscure stuff, I'd be like, oh, finally. Especially since like you can't have you can't bring retics there or burms, any of the quote impressive larger snakes that if you saw on a table you'd be like, oh, all right, that's pretty interesting. So you see some bizarre colubrid and you're like, what's that?
Yeah.
What are you doing with that?
Back in the day, the White Plains show was also for me, being the carpet geek. That's where a lot of the really first carpet guys were bringing out their babies and selling them. And I've been to that show for a long time as well. And they're guys there you really don't see other places. They just stick to that show.
Yeah, very true.
And it's some of these guys have originated so many different morphs of the carpets that are out there now, and you would barely know who they were because they really stay sort of undercover at that show only.
Yeah, very true. And it's funny is I was talking with our camera guy at Nerd, because he's been helping me edit some videos for my own personal YouTube, and I was like, dude, I would love to really find a way to make carpet pythons a little more popular on YouTube, because it's not a species that really gets any sort of major spotlight unless you're into Morelia. You don't really know about Morelia, it would seem. And I'm like, man, like there's so many amazing things with this species. Just if you just get a really nice looking jungle carpet, to the person that's never seen a carpet python before, to then see a neon yellow and black snake, like that's going to stop you in your tracks. So it's almost like this 100% undercover species. If you don't know what you're looking for, then you don't know where to find it. Which has always kind of blown my mind, because I remember the first time seeing a carpet python, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was like, I don't understand why more people aren't keeping these and working with these.
Well, I think for years we've labored with that as well, and I think there are a couple reasons as to why they're that way. One, when carpet pythons come out of the egg, you're not seeing the bright yellow and the distinct black colors. They're very muted, so they take a good year to start to really color up.
Right.
And also some of them can be a little bristly.
You don't say.
So, I think the combination of those two things has kept them sort of in that niche area of the python group. But for me, I mean, still, it's my favorite python to work with, and all the different types that I've been working with over the years. It just it's always held my attention, and it will probably always be the core group of snakes that I'll work with.
Yeah, for sure. So what would be like your top 3 species to work with? If carpets are like your number one, your core.
They all count as one species.
Yeah, we'll put it all. Yeah, just carpet pythons
we'll
in general.
leave carpets as their own group. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw some Colubrids out there because I really do enjoy a lot of the Colubrids that are out there. I've always enjoyed and worked with and still have Arizona Mountain Kings.
Yes, Pyros. Yeah, man.
Yep. And years ago, a friend of ours produced what looked like a lighter colored pyro, and I was able to get a hold of some of its offspring, traced it back to a wild caught adult, and that's where the real true hypopyro came from. It originated out of those animals. And it was an interesting project because we were able to literally trace it back to the area where that wild caught male was found.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And we know the people who found it. We know where they found it. Maybe they weren't supposed to be there, but they were there. But it was brought back into Maryland, and was being bred to different females, and babies were being tossed out to friends and everything. And I kind of figured out where when the light ones started coming up. At the time, nobody was throwing out the hypo term at that point.
Right.
And I looked at them. I said, "Well, these are certainly different. Where did you get your animals from?" So after talking about to say 3 or 4 people, I was able to trace it back to somebody I knew, and was able to acquire some animals from him and breed it back to the original male, and were able to reproduce that morph.
That's incredible.
And at that point, we were able to actually call it what it was, and it was a recessive trait, and we just developed it from there.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Hell yeah, dude.
So those stakes will always be near and dear to my heart.
Hell yeah. So that's number 2. What's number 3?
I'll be honest. I really enjoy working with the womas. I've got a group of womas that I work with, and I really enjoy them. Another little bristly snake. They're not warm and cuddly by any stretch, but I do enjoy them.
Yeah, that's fun. We just had somebody who was visiting Nerd the other day. Was like, "Hey, do you guys have any womas that you might be willing to sell?" And I looked over and I was like, "I mean, we've got 2 over there." And he's like, "Can I take a look at them?" I was like, "At your own risk, bud."
Yeah. You're cool with getting chewed on.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's what they do. They just,
Yep.
They don't just bite; they bite and just keep biting and chewing.
Yep.
I remember I had one when I was younger, and it literally bit me between the web of my finger, like the web of my finger between my pointer finger and my middle finger, and it was just chewing on me right there. That's a miserable place to get bit. I just want to go on record and say that is a horrible place to get bit. Luckily, it wasn't giant, so it wasn't the worst, but it was
That's true.
It was not good.
All it takes is the right snake in the wrong place.
Yeah. Terrible. So with your womas, are they like any specific lineage line, the Barry Miller line, or?
Mine are undocumented
Okay.
lines that I picked up from here. None of them are related. I picked one up here, one up there. I've got
Cool.
4 of them. So eggs incubating this year, but
Nice.
That's awesome.
Is there like a specific look that you prefer out of your womas, like higher orangey reds or a little on the darker side?
I like the higher orangey reds. I like the lighter animals as opposed to the darker ones. As much contrast as you can get as they grow older. I know you lose a lot of that as they grow older, but I like the contrast if they can keep it. But that orangey color is great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. That's what catches my eye with womas the most too, is when you see something that's just like bam right in your face, you're like, yeah.
Starburst. Just like...
Yeah, exactly.
See the thing.
Well, I've noticed over like the last couple of years, when I see people producing babies, there's such a I didn't realize it when I first started working with. There's such a huge variability in what the babies look like from clutch to clutch. And I never was aware of that. I thought that they were all about the same.
Yeah.
Right.
But they all look different.
100%. Yeah, the thing is, I love womas, but I actually don't like black-headed pythons because they're so much darker. I don't know. For me, I like the womas because of that like light orangey and yellow contrast. And then like the darker womas don't catch my eye as much. I'm like, it's like one step away from being a blackhead python. And then like blackhead pythons, I like the xanthics, but like, I don't know. They just like, they don't catch my eye as much as a lot of the other snakes. I don't know what it is about them. They're just like, they're darker. It just doesn't catch me. I don't know.
And that's why we can't have Jason Hood on the show.
Yeah. That's probably why he would tell me he's not coming on the show. I remember what at Tinley, I was having people sign that book, and I went up to Jason Hood, and I was like, oh, it's like, pythons of the world. I didn't realize it was just pythons of, like, Asia. And he went in, and he was, like, looking. He's like, where are the black-headed pythons? And I was like, I don't know. They should be in there. And I, like, didn't even look at it. And I was like, oh, they're not in this book. He handed the book back to me. He was like, get out. And he wouldn't sign it.
No!
That's what you get.
That's what I get. I was being dumb. I deserve it.
Damn.
I own that 100%. I deserve that. It was fair.
It's okay. It was that day Rob's feelings were very hurt.
No, me and Jason Hood go back. We actually, the first time that I met Jason Hood was through the Amazon tree boa thing, and he hated me. He did not like me at all. Yeah, because okay, this is a tangent. I'm going to go off here for a second.
Okay.
But back in the day, there was this forum called Amazon Alliance, and it was all the people who were super into Amazon tree boas and breeding them and keeping them and blah, blah, blah. And they were trying to set up a directory of, like, so you could document your lineage. So if you wanted to get, or if you were breeding them and selling them, you could give people a link to the site, and it would be like, oh, I got an animal from this litter, and these are the parents, and these are the grandparents, and this other person has got animals from that litter too. And it was like super cool idea, and I was like super about it. And they were trying to group things by look of Amazon tree boas, which Amazons are so variable. They have all these different looks to them. And so they had a section for patternless animals. They had a section for bicolored animals, for tricolored animals, for colored patterned animals, and for gardens. And I was like, why isn't there a section for Halloweens? Because like Halloweens have their own trade name. They have a very distinct look. You kind of know what they're going to look like from baby to adult. And I think that they should have their own section. And all the people on Amazon Alliance, not all of them, but the vast majority of them are like, fuck you. It's a garden. Get out of here. It doesn't deserve its own section.
Damn.
And I was like, why? That doesn't make any sense. Like it just didn't make sense to me because patternless baby, like Amazon tree boas change so much as they grow from the time that they're babies to adults. So you can have a patternless baby that develops pattern as it grows. So it doesn't make sense that you would have it in a patternless section as a baby and then maybe a colored pattern section as an adult. Mm-hmm. Where Halloweens 100%, when they're babies they're black and red, and then when they're adults they're black and white. That's what they look like 100% of the time. And I fought with them, and Jason Hood was like, he did not like me because I was like, I wouldn't let it go. I was like, no, this is stupid. You guys are being shitty and blah, blah, blah. And I went back and forth. There was like a 10-page thread of me going back and forth. It was bad. It was really bad. But I was just like, I was dead because I love Halloweens. They're probably one of my favorite Amazons. But the people on there were like, it's a garden. Get over it. And I was like, you have a section for bicolors and tricolors. How come you can do that, but you can't do a Halloween section? That's just shitty. And so that's how I met Jason was through that. Jason Hood was fighting with him on there. And he was super duper against me.
Ah, the good old days.
The good old days of internet forums. Oh my god. So, I don't even know. I just took up way too much time talking about
It's okay. Everybody's got to have a rant once in a while.
I know,
okay.
I know. So,
and we let you go with it. We didn't even interrupt you once.
Yeah, right.
Rob, you got to reel it in,
Just
guys.
have your moment. Have your moment.
So, with the West Pop ones, are you working with? Did you produce any this year, or looking at getting any clutches out of those?
Actually, we did. I have. Way back in the day, there was a couple animals circulating around with the West Poplins that were very heavily striped.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the tiger carpets, but still a fairly decent dorsal stripe. West Papuans are prone to striping, but they're usually very thin, and it's usually sort of like a spider web off to the side, and down the laterals. This was a little different than that. It was more of a broader stripe. Come to find out, the guy that was peddling it around, was trying to shop around to a bunch of different people and trying to gouge people, and I finally said, "This is what you're giving it to me for," and that's how this is going to work. And I was able to get it away from him, and so it's been sort of a long range project because the male hasn't been super productive as far as the amount of eggs that it puts out that are good each year. But we traced it back, and I don't know if you guys know Bob Fudo from Illinois.
Yes. Oh yeah.
100%.
He brought the parents in. They were wild caught at the time IJs that went through a couple people's hands, but eventually wound up producing animals that produced this animal. So again, we were able to trace it back to where they came from. But we're finally starting to get enough animals together to form a decent breeding group, so we can do some line breeding and some cross breeding and trying to really refine the striping. And we are getting striped animals from it. It's just that they're not quite as striped as the male, and I think that's because we haven't been able to do any line breeding with that yet. We're also getting some very strange coloration coming out of the babies. A lot of them look like you dipped them in cherry Kool-Aid.
Ooh, so just really red.
It's like a red wash more than anything else.
Okay.
And as those babies have grown up, they're odd looking subadults at this point.
That's really
That's
cool,
super cool. Yeah.
So we're hoping this same line of animals has produced dead in the egg albinos. Full term, but they didn't survive.
Right.
So we're wondering if this weird coloration could be sort of a visual het of some kind. We're hoping. So in the next couple years, we'll be able to breed these animals back to each other and see if we can come up with maybe even something more interesting down the road with this project. But it's been a long project because he's just a very, very lazy breeder. He really doesn't give it. He's really half-assed. He barely wraps the tail.
Oh,
He said,
damn.
Okay, here.
It's like, hey, just crawl over it. Just crawl over it.
Get over here. We'll give it a whirl.
Oh, man.
But this year we finally got a really good clutch out of him, and the nice thing is we've outcrossed this line of animals. So when we start to cross things back, I think there's enough fresh DNA in there to allow us to go a couple lines in to see what we can come up with as far as what the genetics are.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
That should be really, really cool.
That's a joint project with myself and Eric Kohler. So,
cool. Yep.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some neat stuff to throw out on the table in the next year or two.
Hell yeah, dude.
I miss the days where there was more going on with West Papuans, because I feel like back when Spitfire, when Yasser was doing his thing, I just remember looking at those and being like, wow, those are like such interesting looking carpets. And then when was it Greg Graziani had the IJ Jags that he had made, the 75%ers, I think it was Bullwinkle, and I remember seeing that thing and being like, whoa, why that thing's so not orange, but the color on it was just so different to me. And then I feel like since jungles got a lot more popular, a lot of people did more work with them. So I'm curious to see, as people are working more with the West Papuans IJs, what different directions people are going to go with them, because they're so variable. They're just such a cool looking carpet python.
Well, that's another example of things cycling back the other direction. Right now, with the West Papuans, you've got the granite gene, you've got the axanthic gene, so you got the combination of those two things. even even without crossing into the jag aspect of anything, right now there's enough morphs out there just to stay within the West Poppin complex to make some really neat animals.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
So and I think you're seeing a resurgence of that. I think you're seeing people like bringing in Steve Katz comes to mind, bringing in some farmed offspring. And bringing in new genetics because they're an animal we can still get from the wild, or farmed animals, and bring them into the country. So you never know what's going to pop up here over the next couple of years with those animals.
That's very true. Yeah, some of those ones that he was bringing in were quite incredible looking.
They really were unique looking. Even from back in the day, these newer ones were interesting to look at. Rob, I don't know if you remember way back in the day, if you were on the Morelia Pythons forum, they had a morph of the West Poppin, and it never made it really to market, but it was called a spider.
I don't know if I saw that one.
I'll have to dig up. I think I might have pictures of them on my computer from back then. But it's like nothing that you've ever seen in an IJ/West Poppin that you have out there today. They didn't survive to adulthood. They survived to adulthood, but nobody was able really to get them to breed. I don't know what happened to them at the end of the day. But it was a really reduced pattern, West Poppin, and it was just way different than anything that's out here now. I doubt we'll ever see him again, but I'll see if I can find a picture of him. I'll send it to you.
That
would
really
be
cool.
Insane, yeah. Now the key question there is, did it wobble?
I don't know that it. I don't think it had the wobble that its other namesake has. But I don't think they were strong animals.
Yeah.
A guy by the name of Will Leary had them at the time, and
okay.
he tried to get it to work. I think Yasser may have wound up with some of them too.
Makes you go,
Yeah.
This is
I
weird.
doubt they're around.
Yeah, I just, it's like, there's so many different interesting looks when it comes to them. And, like, I saw one, I think it was Steve Katz that posted it, but it looked like it was made out of, like, Tetris blocks. Like, the pattern was so, like, straight on it that it didn't have, like, the curves that I usually see on them. And I was just like, that is a freaking amazing looking carpet. I don't know. It just, I think I'm excited to see what the next like 5 years to see what people do with them.
Yeah, I think since their popularity is starting to rise again, it would really be great to see people really just start to refine some of these more obscure traits that people are saying. The granite's really nice, the axanthus really nice, but when you can start, like, it's what the ball python guys did. They start seeing very small traits and things and start breeding those animals with those type of traits together and actually developing the line of animals.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that would be neat to see, that happen with this group as well.
Yeah. And
it's harder with carpets because they're so variable, but I think it's well worth the effort.
Oh, 100%. This morning when I was going through one of my clipboards, just trying to clean it off, I had found an old price list of some animals that Kev was selling. I think it was like 2011 or something like that.
Yeah.
But now for ball pythons, you rarely ever see anybody bring up lineage or lines of anything like the lemon pastel, the Graziani pastel. But on this sheet, you saw like the lemon line pastel. It was like all caps. It was like the big selling point of the yellow ball python, and I was like, "Damn, dude, I haven't seen that written in a long time."
That's old school marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it worked. Motherfucker, did that work?
It did. I mean, well, that's all people had to look at. I
Yeah.
mean, back in the day, it was those type of price lists, like strictly reptiles and some of the other places down in Florida. That's all they would send out is just a printed price list, no pictures, and that's how you had to market your animals with a description, and you had to have something that caught somebody's eye.
Yep.
Or you could send $5 in a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they'll send you a Polaroid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the snake will probably be sold by the time you got it.
Yeah. Oh man.
That's what was so great about the back of those reptiles magazines.
I used to scour that every
Absolutely.
month. I would go through there and see who posted new things. You know, I wasn't even buying snakes at the time because I wasn't allowed to keep snakes, but I would just read everything that people were breeding and what people were selling and all this stuff. I found a Reptiles magazine from like 94 or 95 the other day, and it's like, New Caledonian eyelash gecko, $7,000 a pair. We also have this New Caledonian giant gecko, and they're $5,000 a pair. And I was like, wait, crested geckos are more expensive than lychees? When the fuck did that happen?
Oh, man.
It's amazing what happens when these things first come in and nobody really knows what they are.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. 100%.
It's so wild. I have a picture of one of the old, I think it was Manchester expos that I had went to. It was either Manchester, no, it was White Plains Expo. And I'm holding this Bismarck ring python, and it's a super nice aberrant, like 1.5 year old Bismarck ring python. And I remember that Regal Reptiles was selling it at the time, and they had it for $200. And because I knew the guys from Regal, they were like, "I'll give it to you for $150." And I was like, I don't know. I kind of want to buy some blood pythons right now. I'm going to pass on it. And now I'm like, son of a, you idiot. If you had bought that, that would have been like, that could have been like, and it was just a really nice animal. And I remember going to the expos and seeing croc monitors for $400 in a bin, and everyone just being like, yeah, I'm not going near that fucking thing. No, not happening. It's just so wild.
Yeah.
How much has changed.
Times have changed. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So this season for you, is it going pretty well, or?
Yeah, it's not going bad at all, actually. We got some different projects that we were able to get into, and got sort of the bang for our buck on the first go round.
Cool.
Yeah, we bred a hypo coastal.
Mm-hmm.
A true hypo coastal to one of my tigers, which produced some really neat, what we're assuming are hypo babies with really an aberrant pattern down the back.
Cool.
You guys know what the tigers look like.
Yeah.
These things look like you can barely see it, but there is a dorsal stripe, but there's also like a secondary dorsal stripe on either side. It looks like those really fat tire bicycles that you see at the beach.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like going down the back of the animal.
Oh, that's pretty big. That's pretty badass.
Cool.
So, and we haven't released any pictures or anything of them yet. We're waiting for them to shed and kind of establish, and then we'll do it. But it's something that I know that my line of animals has never, ever produced, and I've produced generations of the stuff that I have.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've ever seen any sort of aberrancy like that. So,
that's so freaking cool.
That for me was very exciting. Again, that's a project with Eric Kohler and another guy named Kyle Harper.
Mm-hmm.
That it's sort of a three-way.
Thruple. Having a three-way.
We're gonna thruple.
Hey man, carpet.
Yeah.
Carpet. I've heard stories about the carpet community. Just saying.
Yeah. We're a little out there. But yeah, Kyle got the hypo and brought that over, and then Eric and I each contributed a female. And the results were interesting and unexpected, and we're still trying to figure out sort of which ones are which. And we're gonna have to wait for a few sheds in order to really figure that out, because there's also a caramel gene in there too. So we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool project. That clutch I was not, just from my years of breeding my animals to my animals. I've never produced anything that looks like that. And I've outcrossed my stuff, but I've never produced anything that has looked like that before. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It's cool that, like, even so far into your generations of breeding, you're still seeing new things when you pair it to that's always interesting to me, because like in the Borneos, every time that you breed something, it's something different, but your group so well, and the stuff that you generally produce with them, to have you going, okay, where did that fucking thing come from, is like, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Well, that really is the fun part of it. And that's why you wait for these little noses to pop out of these eggs, because you really don't know what's going to pop out. You expect, you have thoughts, but you really don't know what's going to pop out from one clutch to the next, and that's what really makes it fun for me. It's producing things that I've never seen before.
100%.
You always want to outcross stuff because that's how you keep your lines, genetically healthy.
Right.
But you also you want to see what gets produced when you breed some of these traits back together to each other. And that's I like doing both.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. No, I think that's super cool. With the hypo trait, is there any particular project with the hypo trait that you're looking forward to seeing, either it being like just a continuation of the project that you just had offspring from, or a project that somebody else in the community is working on?
Well, I do really want to see what it does to and with the tiger gene, because I think tiger hypos, are really neat looking animals, and I'm excited about that. I also want to see what it does, to the axanthic gene as well. And the other clutch we produce, that we have a lot of what she was a head axanthic, and we have some babies that we can pretty well determine are also hets. So that'll be another neat project down the road.
Some
true
ghosts.
Out.
Yeah.
Yep. So that would be interesting. But there's a lot of things you can breed the albino into it. You can and then you just coastals in them, even of themselves, are so variable. You can use there are a lot of different lines of coastals out there that would lend themselves to be interesting mixed with that hypo gene.
For sure.
So there's going to be a lot of experimentation and to see what these different things produce. And Paul Harris over in Europe has been doing it for years, and he's produced a lot of interesting things. But I'm interested to see what we over here in the U.S. can do with that gene and see what comes of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that progress as the years go on. It's moments like that where I almost wish you could do it like ball pythons and breed them in a year.
I know.
Just to see. I'm anxious.
I think those.
I've bred some pretty small males. It can be done.
Yeah. Oh man.
I always feel like I wait a long time. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm gonna give you an extra year.
Yeah.
When it comes to that sort of stuff. But males, I've definitely seen males who are like smaller and they're wanting to breed, like off food, cruising hard, like just they're interested in breeding. And to see that at like an age where you wouldn't expect it it always throws me off. Because I always am like, oh, well, it's just going to give it another year. Let them But the animals will tell you when they're ready to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
If you know your animals' behaviors, they absolutely will tell you what they're ready to do. I know when the zebra jungles first came over, I got one of those original animals. I think at the time it was the only one on the East Coast. And the male that I got, I bred, I don't know how many grams he was, but if you could probably think of like a carpet python yearling, he wasn't much bigger than that.
Oh, wow.
And he bred a fairly large female without any hesitation whatsoever.
Damn.
So they will tell you when they're ready to breed.
Yeah.
100%.
The females will tell you when they're ready to breed. Although, like Rob said, I'll usually give the female an extra year. So I've bred some small females, but I find that it's healthier for them. If you think they're ready, maybe give them one more season.
Yeah, for sure. It never hurts, especially if you're only putting the female in a better position for future production. Yeah. So yeah, I'd certainly rather do that than just be like, well, it's year 3, you're ready. Here you go. Yeah. Go for it.
My IJ girl who produced this year, she's 5.5. So I never was like, oh, I just thought she was awesome, and I was like, I need to raise this thing. And then I had a million people be like, you got to breed it, it's so unique. And I'm like, I don't know. Where I was at before, when I was working in Maine, I would have felt like it would have been more of a, not a burden, but it would have made me think more about where the babies are going. And then now where I'm working at Nerd, I've got an outlet. If I need to sell more than I, had intended, I've got an outlet to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that like a lot of people don't think of when they're like, oh, I want to breed things. They don't think about, oh, where am I going to sell all these babies to? They think they're going to have 1 million people lined up, and that's not always the case. Like,
yeah, especially when they're making pastel ball pythons.
I just feel like West Poplands or IJ carpets, when they're little, I think they're really pretty looking. Like they're red basically. But when you see the adults, like even that's eye catching too. So for me, I feel like that they're easy for me to sell. Like when I tell people what I see and what I like about them, I don't usually have a problem selling them. But the average person, if they don't have a venue for that, it's just like you could be setting yourself up to have a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, for quite some time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, plus also your passion shows through too.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there explaining to somebody and showing them the subtleties of your animals and you're excited about it as you're showing them to them, that sort of rubs off on the person that make all the difference about whether they decide to buy it or not.
100%. That's why I'm so bummed about expos not happening right now. Going and getting to talk to people about the things that they enjoy doing and the animals that they're working with. Like, that's what I miss about expos.
Yeah.
Well, we're in the new normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever that is.
I don't
so
like
we'll
it.
See. Yeah. I also work as a musician, so trying to think about what performances, concerts are going to be like in the next couple of years is very interesting. A lot of my friends have gone the route of like doing live stream concerts and having people send money via Cash App or PayPal or whatever, and that's proven beneficial. But compared to a concert, first of all, when you're getting cash. But second of all, like to be in a room with people who are like you can see in real time are engaging, you can't match that at all. If you're not, if you've already done it, not doing it, you're like it's not the same. So that's an interesting thought process what that'll be like in the next year or 2 or 3 or whatever the new normal really becomes.
There better still be Carpet Fest. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Well, listen. They canceled it this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling that's not going anywhere. And as soon as we're able to do it again, I'm sure Eric and Owen will definitely want to get that back out there because I know a lot of people have a lot of fun at that. And it's a great way to get that community together.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Being such a niche community anyway, you don't often get time to spend that much time around that many people with the same interests that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it definitely is quite a unique experience. I remember my first Carpet Fest was only just a few years ago, but I was immediately like, whoa, like everybody's here.
Wait, I know him. I know that guy. I know. Wait,
exactly.
I know.
Exactly. Was that at Owen's house?
Yeah. Yep. I think that was 2017 or 2016.
Yeah, I think that one was a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't that who? Somebody jumped off the roof into the pool or something. I think that was the year that happened.
That was Eric's house.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I left before that happened.
See, I didn't even get to go to any of the OG Carpet Fests. I just went to the Southeast Carpet Fest this year, and so I'm bummed because I was like, I saw all the pictures and I was like, oh man, I can't believe it. Last year, like last minute, I had to cancel. I had everything set up where I was gonna go, and then literally work just was like, nope, you can't go. So I
remember that because everybody was asking me, hey, where's Rob? I thought Rob was coming and he was coming with you, and I was like, he couldn't show up.
I'll be honest with you. I've missed so many of them, just because of kids' schedules and sport tournaments and things like that. It never ever, for many years, it never worked out to where I could get to them.
Yeah.
So the original ones were actually at Howard Redding's house down outside of D.C.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's where they started, and then they moved it up to Owen's and then to Eric's.
As long as they do one next year, I'm cool.
I hope we get to. I mean, the one good thing about them, they're for the most part they're outside.
Yeah.
So I mean, it you can social distance.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is true. That is true.
It
just means that they're gonna have to put the liquor in a bigger space, because that room's always packed.
Oh, at Eric's house?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
wild. So we're kind of like winding down towards the end here, but one of the questions that we've been asking people at the end of our program is, in the realm of reptiles, it could be a project that you're working on or one that someone else is working on that you're just excited about. What is something that has got you just geeked out? What's got you excited? Something that you're looking forward to seeing in the future of reptiles?
Well, for me right now, like just where I am, I've gotten a couple different new little projects that I'm just beyond excited about. I just picked up a Western green rat snake.
Hell yeah!
And so I'm growing that one up. I'm hoping to get a mate for it this season. If Casey Lasic's listening, he owes me a female.
I will send this episode right to him.
But that's one of the most exciting projects for me. I've wanted those things since I was in my early 20s when I saw them in magazines and things like that. So to have one actually in hand is pretty exciting for me. And also got a Costa Rican black milk snake, and then I'm excited to have this 6-foot black monster in the next few years.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not what I would have expected, but yes.
No, I mean, like I said, I love the carpets, but you got to diversify.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think we were just talking to Adam G, and I'm pretty sure that he said that he just got Western green rats too.
Yeah.
I think
cool.
Yeah. That's really awesome.
And you know what? Didn't he say he only gets females?
No, that's the
that
Cyphalophus.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I was like, wait, we might be able to set something up.
Hey, listen, I'm willing to. I'm wheel and deal or breeder loan, whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Hey, so if you're listening,
yeah, there you go.
I say he does do Reptile Finder too, so he might be able to hook you up with
cool
with stuff. So if people want to find out more about you, where should they go to do that?
Well, definitely on Facebook under my name, and I also have an East Coast Serpents page, which is the business name.
Cool.
And I pretty much answer both, so either page is fine. But I'm also in a lot of different groups where carpet pythons are concerned, so you can find me on Facebook anywhere.
Sweet. Sounds good, man.
Good, dude.
So thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure having you this evening.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Right,
sure.
Thanks,
We'll
dude.
talk to you soon, man.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.